Hey everybody, this is Doa back with another StarCraft 2 broadcast. Again, I'm casting all 4 TLO games from the recent Zerg replay pack that was released by Team Liquid in their Team Liquid Weekly number 14 on www.teamliquid.net. Of course, Team Liquid has a StarCraft 2 pro team. I believe most of them now reside in Korea, living in the same house that the majority of the OGS clan also live in, so they're kind of practicing together there as a joint venture. TLO, of course, one of their players, and his opponent this time on Metalopolis is going to be IMtrue. I believe this is another Korean ladder game. I think that's a pretty safe, educated guess. A pretty safe, educated guess. I just woke up. And so we're going to have to see what his opponent has planned for him today. IMtrue, I haven't really heard of before. I'm not really quite sure where he stands in the whole StarCraft 2 scene, but we're going to have to see how he plays in close positions on Metalopolis. This does allow him to be a little bit more aggressive, obviously, than he would be on the cross positions, and it does put TLO in kind of an interesting position, too. I'm glad that so far 2 out of the 4 replays have been a TVP, just because I think that's a matchup that's not quite as defined yet as maybe TVZ is. You certainly don't see it as much, and I think the strategies that the players use haven't quite been nailed down quite as much as it is in TVZ or even ZvZ, really. So we're going to have to see what the players are planning. TLO looks like he's going to poke at this pylon a little bit, try to get the attention of his opponent and possibly bring a probe or 2 off the line. Looks like IMtrue getting his first gas. TLO did put down his pool at looks like 13 or 14, and it looks like he is sending out a no, that's not his, that's a probe. Looks like he's not sending one out for an expansion yet, so he's playing a little bit safer build because he knows he is in close positions. He did find his opponent right away, so he's going to want to get up a little bit more defense than normal before looking at expanding. TLO creating another overlord there, as those are always helpful if you are playing Zerg, of course. Cybernetic score going down for IMtrue. He's going to leave a little bit of a gap here for a Zealot to fill, just so he can move out later with some units, but create a pretty effective wall, as one Zealot can stand up for a long time to some Zerg. And it looks like TLO stealing the gas of IMtrue, trying to prevent any sort of big, one base all-ins that Protoss are so keen to do in close positions. So this is going to slow down IMtrue's build a little bit and cause TLO to be able to do things like get his expansion up. And it looks like he's going to force his pylon cancel as well for IMtrue. So TLO so far doing a good job of sort of taking control of this game and kind of forcing his opponent to play like he wants. And TLO, being TLO, taking a gold expansion, kind of a risky thing to do, Snake. This, it looks like IMtrue is not going to spot it. This probe just barely skirting around the outside. I really don't think he saw that, as you can't see up the ramp unless you actually go up the ramp. So IMtrue not aware of this hidden base quite yet. In the meantime, TLO poking in at the base as this Zealot is on hold position, so he's not going to attack unless the Zerglings move right into him, as they just did there. So TLO already with some interesting play there. Looks like IMtrue not even worrying about this gas for now. He's just going to ignore it, putting down a second gateway. He does need to kind of block things off. I think as he gets a few more units, he's probably going to go and start working on that extractor as well. Looks like still doing some scouting of TLO's base. In the meantime, TLO putting up a Roach Warren, which is a good, safe, stable thing to do if you're a Zerg in close position against Terran or Protoss on this map, as the Roaches are so great now for that early defense with the range. And as I say that, of course, he cancels the Roach Warren. I think he was just actually waiting for that probe to die, letting the probe see the Roach Warren to sort of fake out his opponent. In the meantime, he is going to start, looks like, producing more Zerglings there. Extractor still hasn't been touched. I take it back, it's just now being touched by the sentry from IMtrue. In the meantime, this gold expansion is up, and it looks like TLO is going to poke in at the ramp again, planning on trying to go to work on this gateway, which is already getting a little bit low, although these sentries are going to be able to force back the Zerglings. So TLO starting to build up the Zergling numbers, getting speed now, as you can see from the production tab, and still just more or less droning up at this point. And I don't believe this expansion has been scouted yet for IMtrue. Let me see. Yeah, he still does not know about it. I was just kind of looking at the minimap while I did that. This extractor about ready to go down for TLO, but he did manage to delay that gas for a good long time, kind of putting pressure on with the Zerglings at the front to force IMtrue to worry more about that than about getting a second gas, which is kind of a cool little tactic for TLO to do. Looks like IMtrue is going to try to 4-gate anyway, although missing gas, he's going to have to go on sort of a Zealot-heavy composition, although he's getting a few Stalkers out right now. Zergling speed almost done for TLO, that metabolic boost building there. In the meantime, no other tech buildings for TLO yet. He is just basically stockpiling minerals and producing lots and lots of Zerglings. he is getting that evolution chamber now. Probably going to be looking at upgrading the weapons for his Zerglings. I wouldn't be surprised to see a second one go down here fairly soon, as most Zergs do like to upgrade both of those at the same time. 2 queens out for TLO as well. Queen just finishing now at the gold expansion. More Zerglings coming out. And so TLO's Zergling numbers continuing to grow. He's going to poke one in just to see what sort of units his opponent has. And he will see those Zealots and Sentries and possibly that Stalker as well. In the meantime, IMtrue doing a good job of sort of building up behind the scenes. It looks like IMtrue is planning on moving out now. And this is kind of a scary force, putting down that pylon there to sort of reinforce his ramp, make it a little bit longer for the Zerglings to get around. I don't believe I've seen a forge yet, so not planning on doing any sort of cannons or anything. And TLO doesn't really have the Zergling numbers at this point to take out this army. And IMtrue knows that. I think he may just be trying to secure this location for his natural expansion, trying to play a little bit more of an economic game against TLO here, as he realizes that TLO is fairly well prepared for this early aggression. In the meantime, TLO sending a large amount of speedlings across the map. It looks like he is thinking of moving in. No, he does pull back. Those sentries are certainly something to worry about when you only have a bunch of speedlings to attack your opponent with. It looks like IMtrue is planning on pushing out now. TLO moving around those Zerglings, but they are going to be kind of pushed around the map at this point. Thanks, Statue getting in the way a little bit there. And TLO may be losing a couple more Zerglings than he really needs to. Kind of not really baiting his opponent back, as I don't think he really wants to do that right now. TLO losing quite a bit of Zerglings, so I think he might be in a little bit of trouble here at his base. No other tech right now, still just getting those upgrades. He does have 3 queens though, and Zerglings are going to try to harry his opponent. But IMtrue looking very strong right now. Let's go to the army tab real quick just to take a look at it. Looks like IMtrue ahead slightly, 63 over 58. Thinking about pushing in, but he knows something has to be up, as he probably can assume the amount of Zerglings that TLO has, as well as his Spine Crawlers can't really be produced off of one base. He's got to know something is up. Some nice force fields going down there, kind of splitting the forces of TLO, kind of cutting off one of those queens there. IMtrue is going to move in with the Zealots, and this is actually looking like a pretty successful attack for IMtrue. Although with the Zerglings and the drones that TLO is needing to pull off the line, he may be able to push him back a little bit. Boy, I think if IMtrue just kind of pushed in there, he may have been able to do quite a bit of damage to TLO. But IMtrue deciding to pull back, go for more of an economic game. TLO sending some more speedlings to die there apparently, and this Overlord is going to go down as well. TLO doing a good job of not becoming supply block because of that. In the meantime, we do have TLO taking another third, so TLO just kind of randomly taking bases all over the map here. I've never seen anyone take bases in quite this order before, and seeing if he can sneak in some Zerglings in past the defenses of IMtrue, but IMtrue having a little force back here just to make sure. And it looks like he is going to spot this gold expansion with the Xel'Naga Tower, so this base is going to be in trouble. TLO moving his drones away right away. He knows he doesn't have what it takes to defend this, and he may just end up sacrificing this expansion. What IMtrue does not know, however, though, is that there is this third base right down here for TLO, which is going to let him keep up more or less on the economy. IMtrue still not taking a second base yet, which might come back to haunt him in the future. Although this base is going to be taken down, which is going to be a little bit of a problem for TLO. Some speedlings again moving across the map. This is something I've noticed TLO doing in his recent matchups, is going just mass speedling and then not transitioning to anything else until much later on. Although we do see that a Baneling nest is going down for TLO, so it looks like he will be transitioning into Banelings, which is kind of an interesting choice considering there are quite a few Stalkers here. He's going to have to be very careful about his Baneling micro, as it takes, I don't know, I think I've seen 8 Banelings blow up on one Stalker and not kill it. I haven't done the math, but it certainly is not something you want to do, sending Banelings in against Stalkers. On the other hand, those Sentries and Zealots are pretty juicy targets. TLO again having to take drones off the line to try to force back the army of IMtrue, and TLO again having to play very defensively. IMtrue putting out a lot of pressure with that 4-gate push. Baneling nest is now completed, and IMtrue is going to be able to pull back. In the meantime, some Zerglings getting into the base of IMtrue, forcing him to pull off all his probes. No mining going on right now for our Protoss friend here. And TLO is just going to be able to go to town on the Nexus and some other buildings of IMtrue. IMtrue pulling back the probes, kind of holding on until the forces can get there to fend off the small Zergling attack. So TLO doing a great job of suspending the economy of his opponent for a short time, but these Zerglings are of course going to go down, although it looks like he does burrow them. I noticed burrow being researched earlier, and no robotics facility for IMtrue, so IMtrue kind of at the mercy of burrow right now from TLO. And TLO basically is going to be able to pop out those Zerglings and kill probes pretty much whenever IMtrue decides to move out. So TLO effectively pinning IMtrue to his base. As you can see though, those Zerglings popping out, taking out a few more probes, and he is probably going to just burrow those again as soon as he feels any sort of pressure. No robotics facility going down yet for IMtrue, even though he does have the resources. It looks like TLO doing a great job of kind of harassing his opponent with that. He did lose that gold base, but in the meantime, this base down at the about 5 o'clock position is up and running and looking great. Meantime, IMtrue moving out again, which allows TLO to think about moving out. He does catch one probe, so TLO still on the loose in his opponent's base, and he is just going to maybe suicide these Zerglings. No saving two of them, so the Zergling numbers dwindling more or less, but TLO still able to really keep his opponent on guard as far as what he's doing. TLO does have the lair up now. It looks like he is not getting Baneling speed quite yet, but he is working on those melee attacks. Level 2 upgrade, more Zerglings still lurking in the base of IMtrue. And still no robotics facility yet, which is very interesting. I would think he'd want to throw one of those down fairly soon after seeing that his opponent is utilizing burrow like that. TLO doing a good job putting down some spine crawlers to defend any sort of aggression from his opponent in case his opponent has found that base. I don't think he has. Let me check here. Actually, he does know about that base, so TLO, knowing that he wants to keep that defended, but doing a good job of keeping his opponent trapped to his base with those burrowed speedlings, which is really something that I haven't seen happen too much. I know when I played Brood War back in the day, I always researched burrow every single game as Zerg, and part of that was just because you could sneak basically Zerglings all over the map and just burrow them at different locations, a lot of expansions, just to keep your opponent very wary about moving about the map. It works great, but we really haven't seen that utilized too much with Zerglings in StarCraft 2, so it's really cool to see TLO doing that. Looks like he is going to get a cannon, which will give him vision, which will give IMtrue rather vision of these Zerglings. So these Zerglings rather, somehow that's a tongue twister, are lost. In the meantime, no cannon is going down yet. I'm not sure if he really even knows about these Zerglings hiding here. I think he can probably guess, but he may not know for sure. Army building up a little bit for IMtrue. Let's take a look at the army tab. Looks like TLO starting to, well actually I was going to say starting to pull ahead, but it looks like he is still significantly behind. 81 over 62. That will change in the near future though, as these two bases really start getting up and running for TLO. Still more or less massing speedlings. That's also a reason why the army size is going to look a little bit small, as the units for IMtrue do use more supply than the units for TLO. So although the armies may be a little bit unequal in terms of supply, they may be more or less even in terms of strength depending on the positioning that TLO chooses. Looks like IMtrue sending out some hallucinated phoenixes across the map just to do a little bit of scouting and see what his opponent is up to. He clicks on that Baneling nest once to check it out. Those queens are not going to be able to take down that hallucinated phoenix, but it does have a limited time anyway, I believe. TLO taking a new third base down here at the 6 o'clock expansion on Metalopolis. In the meantime, more hallucinated phoenixes running around. Possibly IMtrue causing TLO to think he's switching to air, which is a little bit unlikely. Robotics facility now going down for, or just finishing rather, for IMtrue. Is going to want to get that observer out right away to find all those burrowed speedlings. In the meantime, TLO getting an infestation pit, and as well as a Baneling speed too. And that's a nice combination, of course, to hold the units in place with fungal growth and then roll the Banelings right into them. In the meantime, we do have Carapace level 2 upgrading for TLO. TLO still with those burrowed Zerglings across the map, getting both gases on his 5 o'clock expansion and the 6 o'clock expansion just going up now. So TLO kind of harkening back to the beta days. If you remember TLO playing Zerg in beta, he did prefer to go Infest or Speedling in most of his games, so kind of revisiting that a little bit on the ladder here. In the meantime, IMtrue looking very hesitant about moving out. It looks like he's just kind of scared to do anything. In the meantime, TLO moving in with a lot of Speedlings and Banelings,